concept of urban legends are different from normal ghost stories because with most stories you can trace their origin and find out where the said story might have originated, whom the ghost might have been, or the circumstances for the haunting. Urban legends are different, with details often being vague and locations or origins not exactly clear. Even the same story might have differences when told in different parts of the said country. Korean urban legends are no different. These are just some of the Korean urban legends told within the country. Cockroaches Within Tampons. The story is reputed to have gone as thus. One day, a girl's stomach started to hurt really bad. She didn't see any reason for this, so she went straight to the hospital. There, the doctors noticed on an X-ray picture that there were some foreign elements inside her uterus. After looking more in detail at the results, they discovered that the foreign bodies were actually cockroaches. One cockroach had laid eggs on one of the girl's hygienic pads, so they traveled to the womb and hatched in there. There is indeed credibility to this story, as reports within the Korean media have actually done segments about insects being dead found within feminine care products. Cockroach facial for men. One guy had some pretty bad acne scars on his face. He was desperate to cure it and was ready to try anything to get rid of those scars. So he went to a shaman or fortune teller who told him about a very special method. If he could find a cockroach before going to bed, he would just have to put it next to his pillow before sleeping. Sleeping with the cockroach by his face would most surely make his scars go away. So the guy did as he was told. The next morning he wakes up and looks in the mirror and realizes a lot of his scars are actually gone. But upon closer inspection, he sees that the scar holes are not exactly gone. They've been filled with small cockroach eggs. Much like the female version of this story, it deals with the modern concept of vanity in Korea and the obsession to look as beautiful or handsome as possible. The meaning of the tale might be to be happy with how you look and warns against you if you want to change this. Ghost money. According to this urban story, a prominent official of the Korean Mint was away on a business trip when his daughter was abducted, murdered, and her body dismembered. No leads were found as to who kidnapped her, and as a result, no one was tried or arrested for the crime. Supposedly, to appease the girl's spirit, pictures or images of her body parts, or even aspects of her name, were placed onto legal Korean bank currency. The Korean Mint denies anything like this happening. The story deals with the bewildering effect of money in modern Korea, as well as crimes connecting to it, and no one being charged with the crime. A consequence of Western justice in Korea. Taxi drivers who harvest their passengers' organs. A screenshot of a text conversation warning against taxis being used as traps by organ harvesters went viral after it was posted on a social media site, KakaoTalk. The story goes as this. A guy who had too much to drink got into a taxicab. He was stabbed in the back later with a needle, and the next thing he knew, he woke up in a field with his stomach cut open. He had found out that one of his kidneys had been taken. The idea has captivated the public's imagination so much that the urban legend has been used in a variation of the plot for a number of movies, including Korea's own Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. According to sources, the urban legend has been known and mentioned in news sources from at least 1991, predating the modern social trends of today. Cosmetic Sesame. A girl was worried about her skin getting old and wrinkled. This girl was the type of person that would pretty much try every method there is to make your skin better. She heard from someone that if you put sesame seeds in the water of your bath, it would be good for your skin. Girl tried this method right away. But after a few hours in the bathtub, she would not come out of the bathroom. She'd only say, "Just a moment," when someone tried to enter. Her mother grew suspicious and forced the bathroom door open, which was locked. Then she saw that an incalculable amount of sesame seeds had attached themselves between every small wrinkle and pore and had started to grow roots. Her daughter seemed like she had lost her mind and was frantically trying to remove the seeds with a toothpick. This story dates back to at least the Joseon dynasty of Korean history, owing to Chinese influence of the concept of herbal remedies often done in varying parts of Asia. However, especially for young women, this is an urban story that can often put fear into the minds of them. The foot and mouth scare. The story supposedly started in a small village. After burying their cattle, people heard a human voice coming out of the mass grave. The village chief and all of the villagers started to investigate and found a human body among the bovine carcasses. It was later found out that a loan shark had been after the person, and therefore people started to investigate the loan shark trail. But then, all over the country, at the location of the bovine burial spots, bodies that had been previously reported missing started to pop up. In only one grave, 30 bodies were said to have been found among the remains of the dead cattle. According to investigation results, all of the people found had either been formerly kidnapped or had been the target of loan sharks, or had participated in an internet meetup. The police had told the media to suppress the story, but people learned about it anyway, and therefore the information was able to spread. There is no actual proof of this urban legend being true. Some say that this tale has its origins with the bovine pandemics of the early 2000s that affected Korea, or the SARS outbreak in mainland China and Hong Kong. It also ties into people's mistrust or caution with relation to police and government. MP3 Kidnappings. This urban legend started to appear around 2010 and spread quite rapidly within the country. It holds that if you listen to your MP3 player at a high volume, you will get kidnapped. That is because you don't normally or exactly pay attention to your surroundings. Therefore, you might be safe as long as you're walking down a big street. But if you venture into a dark street corner with your MP3 blasting in your ears, a car will come and abduct you. As proof to this assertion, blogs, bulletin boards, and sometimes the media often cite cases of such abductions. A commonly reposted story holds that a female middle school student was walking alone home, possibly with her MP3 at full volume. A car stopped by and she was abducted by the people within the car. There were about 3 to 4 criminals, and they robbed her mouth and taped and raped her. They then took her back to the place where they had first abducted her from. Within Korea, as well as other parts of Asia, young people can be sometimes too focused on their phones or mobile devices. As a result, they could be unaware of their surroundings. This story might have no credible evidence for it, as it could be mentioned to scaring children into being more alert when using technology. Red ink. It's often said in Korea that red ink means bad luck or even death. It's highly, highly, highly discouraged to write someone or anyone's name in red ink for fear of something bad happening to them. Typically, it's only okay to write a name in red ink if the person in question or discussion is dead. Some Korean families forbid having red pens within their homes, houses, or even employment. This is a curse that has dynastic origin besides the modern implications. In certain aspects of Chinese culture, the color red meant anger or death. Common sense has it that red also be used or viewed as a reference to blood. The dog-faced man. While walking at night in a small street of a big city, you hear a voice saying something. You look around but see no one. After a while, you hear the same voice again, but there is definitely no one around. You keep looking around and then you see a dog. But one part of the dog, his face, is human, and you realize that it's been the dog talking to you, trying to catch your attention all along. The dog runs around a corner. You try to follow, but no matter how hard you try to look for the creature, you never find it again. While the story has its origins in Japan, it's become extraordinarily popular in Korea. The legend holds that since the 1970s, there has been sightings of a human-faced dog in the area of Inmyeonggyeong, oysters that grow on your lap. One day, a guy was walking around at a beach when he slipped and fell on a big rock. He hurt his knee pretty bad and there was a deep cut in his flesh. He washed the wound quickly and put a bandage over it. But after a while, the wound started to itch very badly. He was afraid that the wound would get worse if he removed the bandage, so he just endured the pain. A few days later, he finally removed the bandages. Oysters had laid eggs on the rock on which he fell onto, and the eggs had somehow ended up on the skin as well. Covered up by the bandage and fed by his blood, the eggs had hatched and thrived, as his knee was now completely covered with baby oysters. Though the tale is known throughout the country, it has more of an appeal or even fear along the coastal regions of the country, or in parts where fishing is an important part of the community. Chicken blood tattoo. I went to a bar one night to relax and drink. Then I saw this beautiful girl sitting alone in a corner. She was really beautiful and I was looking and thinking of a reason to talk to her. Then she started to drink, and it seemed like the picture of a rose was dimly appearing on the edge of her lips. I rubbed my eyes to make sure that I wasn't drunk, but as she sipped on her drink again, I could clearly see the rose on the edge of her lips. Then the said rose disappeared after a few seconds. In fact, she had a chicken blood tattoo of a rose on the edge of her lips. The chicken blood tattoo is supposedly also a type of temporary tattoo. According to this urban legend, if you get tattooed with chicken blood instead of regular ink, you'll have a special tattoo that will only be visible on certain occasions. Those said occasions are drinking alcohol, drinking hot drinks, doesn't have to be alcohol, it could be even water or juice, taking a hot bath, or even exercising. That is basically anything that might raise your body's temperature. As your body temperature rises, the tattoo becomes more visible. But as soon as your temperature drops, naturally the tattoo would disappear as well. The concepts of tattoos within Korea or even China and Japan traditionally has been taboo. Usually criminals are those with lower social status, as they would have nothing else to lose, so they would have such on their bodies. Because they were of an undesirable element, they didn't care what others thought of them. With the Western notions of tattoos now within the country, more people are getting them, and it comes into conflict with the traditional concepts of not having them. Baby's eyelids. A woman gave birth to a baby, but unlike her, the baby didn't have the double-edged eyelids. In English, the baby didn't look Asian. She felt disappointed, and because she felt the baby would be prettier that way, she turned the single eyelids into double-edged ones using nothing but tape. After a while, she tried to remove the tape, but she accidentally tears off the baby's eyelids along with the tape. Again, this urban legend deals with the concept of vanity within Korea. Even infants can be judged solely based on how they look physically. With modern Korean society becoming obsessed with outward manifestations of beauty, much like the K-pop musical phenomenon, this might have been a tale devised to keep people away from becoming too obsessed with their appearances, even for children as well. Ryu Gwan-Sun. Ryu Guanzhong died as a martyr at the age of 17 after being arrested and imprisoned during the Japanese occupation while protesting for independence. Due to her historic significance and bravery, many classrooms and school universities have either portraits or statues of her, and thus many legends surround them. It's said that on March 1st, the night of Independence Monument Day in Korea, her statue will walk around chanting, "Korea Independence Forever." Furthermore, if you say her name at a portrait, the image will shift to stare right at you. For the sake of this discussion, this is the only urban legend that is absolutely based on that of a real-life person. Though as to why a feminine heroine would have these sorts of legends about her varies. Naturally, reasons depending on what part of the country it's told in.